So we want to start the question and answer segment based on the two presentations we have heard, which were quite good. But one thing that struck me is that both, is that a question? Oh, hold, I'll be with you. Yes, there is a mic. Please, you raise your hand and you get the mic. Now, there's something that was common to both presentations. And yes, two things. One is the human resource element of it. That's a key factor, because nothing happens without people. So the technicians need to be where they need to be and the necessary skill set. But what I like is at least in both cases, they were quite resilient. And I like that, they were able to think out of the box quickly what we need to do in order to get services back. Especially Flo, I'm intrigued with technology. But the other thing too, other than the personal aspect, is the need for electrical power. And maybe we should have had, on hindsight, we should have had Vinlec here. Because even though Nemo and Flo may have had the infrastructure and the personnel, they can't get anywhere if there's no power. So they introduces the next question, which is again for Vinlec, maybe Vinlec or whoever else, is that true we run on fuel, but we don't get fuel out of the ground here. We don't have oil. We rely on the oil coming in, which we are subject to all, the market. But we have wind and we have solar. And it's interesting, as I identified the need for power, I kept saying, well, where is solar? Nobody's mentioning that you're using solar. So maybe we want to, if I missed that, no, I would leave my question for last. About solar, because that is something I have a keen interest in. So I think we have first question in the back.
Oh yes, they can hear me. Okay, so my question, one is a comment, and I will follow it up with a question. Very interesting presentations, I may add. For some reason, I quite liked the one from Flo. I didn't think I would have liked it, but I did. It had me going, and I said, very interesting. By way of comment, though, in terms of the use of when you're in Union Island and you're logging on to the network, the Flows network in Carriacou, I believe it is, or Grenada, whichever one, I experienced that. And Anthony, I was told that, well, I didn't know that there was something coming out of it until when Flo decided that they were going to buy my phone. So when I went to Beckway said, oh, you were roaming. I got so confused. I told them, yes, I was in Grenada. And then I realized, no, I was in the Grenadines. And then when they said, well, it's because of, so now you have explained it. But you need to speak to your other side of your office in that even though I had that issue, I still am having it appear on my bill. In fact, Flo disconnected me again. I am saying that I owe them. So maybe you need to, from the technical side, you need to have more of a communication, because after all, you're in the business of communication, and you need to communicate more with your money side, the finance side of Flo, right? Now, in terms of the resilience, I remember in my former life, when I worked with the government, there was a project which was called then the Emergency Recovery, Disaster Management Project. It came out of one of the hurricanes that we had, as usual. And one of the things that was coming out from that project, from what my memory, Nemo was very much involved in terms of support to Nemo, but also we were working very closely with the business, the telecommunication providers in that their systems should be such that when a hurricane or whatever event is coming, that the systems could be packed up, and which means that the systems would be down, and then once the all clear was given, those systems would be reassembled and be back up online. But from what I'm hearing, that's not so, or I don't know what happened between then and now, but certainly it can't be the same. We cannot continue in the 21st century where there's such a heavy reliance on the availability of technology for us. Simple things like your cameras. I wasn't in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I couldn't see a thing. And I just had to trust and hope that my neighbors were looking out for my property during those times. But that's just my personal thing. So my question is more related to that whole thing about the towers. I know you said you were moving away from towers to some extent, putting stuff on the towers, but that they were supposed to be reassembled, disassembled and reassembled in terms of when a storm came and after it left. Any update on that, or is that still so? Or is not so?
So, well, that was before my time. So, I know there were even, well, that time I would have been in Kiwanis. But I know there was always discussion about the possibility of being able to move things when you take down certain things because you don't want them to be destroyed, and that's a practice that we had for certain things. But there are some things that you can't move, for certain reasons. You just pray that they don't get damaged. But I think even coming out from, I think it was Grenada, when Grenada had Ivan, there was discussions about what would be, suitable for us to use. But I think a lot of the things that they were checking were very expensive. To get, well, not really much to get, but more to maintain. Because, like, for instance, I know even for emergency, we always talk about having an alert system that can alert everyone. So, for instance, we go around and we talk about tsunami. And persons are saying, okay, so why don't we have some mechanism that can alert persons, whether you're in town and so forth, if a tsunami is coming, that would reach everyone. And they would have looked into having, I think was those loudspeaker bells, whatever the case would be, a megaphone that would actually send out that messaging. But after getting the horn or whatever it is, there were some issues. One, the decibels can't turn down, so when you turn on that, it would create problems for persons, especially if they are in close proximity. And then the maintenance of it was another issue because you're dealing with, it will be close to seawater. How do you maintain that? So there were a lot of things that they have been checking. They have been looking at other countries as to how they do different things. But as I said, a lot of it will come back to maintenance and having a budget that would actually be there to, supplement, whatever is required, even though, because this is the problem too. It's one thing to say, yes, we need this, but then after to actually get the budget to maintain it is going to be the question, because you're going to put something there that would sit, and yes, it will be needed, because you will see the relevance of it when something happens, but when something doesn't happen for 10, 15 years, the finance person start looking at the money instead of the humanitarian need or the disaster part of it. So those are some things that we still have to work on. So honestly, I can't really speak to what may have become of such a project, but I am thinking it might have been some of those issues of actually finding a suitable way of taking down some of these things. So that's why even when I showed the repeater, that is something I think is offered by Tate, where you have something that is, you're in a suitcase, you just pick it up, you go up, you set it up, it works temporarily. When you put back up, you move it out. Something like that is removable. But at the end of the day, it comes with a cost. So I'm not sure if Balu have anything on his side that they would have been doing for the telecom side.
Well, I think one of the first time we talk about taking down was when the volcano started. But that was quickly dismissed because you want to have your service up for as long as possible. Yeah? So I think one of the things to it, it's difficult to take a tower down. The only thing I remember, only tower that we had like that was a wind turbine where when there's a storm, we actually lower the whole turbine down. But that's years ago. But to do that, taking down, I think what we need to concentrate on and what we will be concentrating on is to make the network more resilient in terms of putting a lot of stuff underground, reducing especially going to Grenadines, because as you appreciate, we had just gotten a subsea from St. Vincent to Grenada. So what we've been doing, and I think what the other providers have been doing, is to try and reduce the load on the tower. Because a tower could be designed for Cat 5, but then you have the NTRC come and say, oh, I want to put this on your tower. Because they also have equipment on our tower, so we might buy a tower for Cat 5 designed for 3 antennas. And I think that's what happened in Grenada. But then, other people want to put stuff on your tower. As a result, the tower become overloaded, and it's not so much the tower standing up to the wind, it's the load on the tower. So that's taken down kind of difficult. I think what we need to do is more underground and reducing the weight on the tower. But I think one of the major issue is the VINLEC, and as someone mentioned, VINLEC should have really been here to see how they can make the whole distribution more resilient. I've seen in Jamaica they're using concrete pole because some of the poles actually broke, So
in Jamaica, there's this throw up, because where you throw a wire over the line and a wire over the other one, and you connect down there. And because of these little bad John areas, the utility can't go in there to even check, because you have to get permission from the Don.
Right.
Kristen, am I correct? So Kristen, looking at me. I shouldn't be speaking.
I thought one of the things just a joke.
Yeah.
I thought one of the things why they use concrete pole was to prevent people from running in the poles.
No.
Because if you run into a concrete, you're dead for sure.
No, but the concrete pole is actually more fragile than a wallable pole. It will shatter and so on. Still has steel in it. What it does is avoid climbing. It's smooth, and to get on. Whenever you have concrete poles, you have they usually use AMI automatic meter reading transmission. The meter is on the pole, so you can't get to it to connect to it. It's all digitally and radio transmitted.
But you are doing a project soon.
VINLEC is doing a project like that.
Yeah.
If I may, a follow-up to this question. From my own experience in New York, because I handle the servers, which is where all the data is, and all the storage. So what we did, we made the investment with a second data center. However, we have to do maintenance on the primary. So the secondary was always available while you're doing maintenance, nobody is impacted. So that kind of justified the use of the investment. The other thing is, which is critical, it's okay to build resilience in saying, well, I have backup and all of that. But what we learned is you have to test it. So my question is, for all the backup that you have, do you actually do any test that what you have, the way you planned it, is that the way it works?
Yeah, well, yeah. It's an easy question to answer. We we do backups. We have monthly, quarterly, yearly. So that's not a problem because a lot of our infrastructure is in the cloud. Even the mobile HLR, which is the database for the mobile, it's in the cloud. So even equipment on the ground, we do our local backup. It's backed up to remote servers. So we do tons of backups. I don't think we'll ever have a problem with that.
Do you test?
Yeah, we do.
Restore and test?
We do. Actually doing something like that. The guys have tasks to actually, what we do also, right? The guys have tasks monthly. They will do a backup and they'll restore at least one of the backup to a server. And actually sometimes they restore to a card and they actually replace the card in the field with that card. Because what we found too is sometimes with the mobile network, it's a hard drive, you know. It's a hard drive. So after a while, the hard drive, some of the older ones, they use the older stupid hard drive, you know what I'm talking about. So what we do, because they're there for so long, if you turn them off, they're not going to come back on. Yeah, so what we tend to do now is to replace those, and one of the things is doing that, testing it.
Yes, I had a question in regards to the solar panels, right? You said that you had a plan to use solar panels to reduce costs, right? Do solar panels hold up to hurricane and those kind of things? Because I can remember the first thing I thought about when I thought about Union Island, all those solar panels gone. Yes. And I know solar panels are not cheap. So if we're going to use that as an alternative, is that something you're going to put up after? Because if it's up there and it's working, you might have to try to preserve those.
Two things. The business cases for solar panels that have been done in the past, it's not profitable, right? We're kind of seeing it kind of breaking even now because prices have come down. So I think we're going to look at it again. We have even tested solar AC units, right? We did a lot of testing with AC solar. Now, the thing about solar, as I said, the business case wasn't good for the last. We even tried, we were going to do it in Jamaica at one point, and the business case didn't make sense. But it's something that we're looking towards going forward because whether you have a war in Ukraine or whatsoever, that's why I went solar home by me, because of the cost. And the thing about it also, Vinlec doesn't allow you to add batteries. You know that, right? Now, right. But you see, I said to myself, what happens because the way a generator works, you have your ATS. It's isolated from Vinlec when power goes, right? So you can't feedback anything. Solar has the same mechanism. So I always argue with my friends at Vinlec. It's the same like a generator because you're going to have your ATS and your ATS will block the power from getting to Vinlec. Yeah? So it's something that I keep arguing with Vinlec.
Vinlec will go solar. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think Vinlec will go solar, and they're trying to go more solar.
Yeah.
But to make it profitable, they want to be able to add batteries.
Right.
The difficult thing about adding the batteries is the cost and the reliability on the batteries itself. I think you mentioned Vilnec
Lithium.
and Cable and Wireless wanting to go solar on the Andersville. What will happen there is that if you go batteries, then you could be able to store all your power, excess power on batteries, to help to take up the slack when there's cloud cover. When the solar is not the most efficient thing when there's cloud cover, and so when your efficiency go down, and you're not able to supply all the power your building is drawing, you need Vilnec to be able to be there. So in other words, to Vilnec, they're just sitting as a backup to your solar system. Who pays for that?
True.
You know, and that's the argument Vilnec will make. If you're going battery, then fine. But if you're going solar to work only when the sun is up, and when the sun is not up, Vilnec has to maintain the capacity to support you when you're down. Vilnec becomes your backup.
So you can answer my question about Andersville, because I think that
Because I think from a business standpoint, Vilnec will probably suggest to you, well, okay, come off the grid.
Yeah. And we didn't
And if
want
you
that.
can't do that,
Yeah.
then it's okay. Well, if you want us to be there, that's the case. And I'm not speaking for Vilnec.
Yeah.
But just a point, because we had that problem also, that on our roof now, we're covered with solar panels. But when current gone. You know, and sometimes you have problems with the generator, sometimes it may fail, might not, different things. And you may be working, because that happened during burial. The current went, the generator, even though we were testing and doing our checks weekly and so forth, just didn't start. And they had to go, the team had to go and check it, and, we got it started after, but that was like 20 minutes of being done. And that was the question we were always asking. Why can't we, have that battery to support, because of the nature of our work, but then, they have a kind of blanket when it comes to certain things. But I guess is a discussion, as you said, is a business case. And
It's a business case,
Yeah.
and a technical discussion too, because effectively what you want is for your solar system to become a UPS system, for your
right.
for your,
Yeah.
your entire
Yeah.
thing. So when current and UPS systems are on the grid, and they isolate when current
Right.
goes. So you have to be able to
yeah,
make your
so
point.
that-
But you need to have batteries.
Yeah.
If the batteries are there, the battery could be your generator, which comes on when the thing.
Yeah, so that was something we were looking at, because we're definitely saying it's important for us, especially, for something like that. And then when Flow Smartly went from, you had a fixed line, a landline, when it plugs in, even though current go, you still could make a call. No current go, that's it. I kind of understand where they're going with it, but at the end of the day, that was the reason for it. So now when current go, there's an issue and that fails, internet gone, you have no way of making that phone call. And that was something also that we saw as an issue.
More questions? Comments?
Yeah, just a follow-up to Ledo's comment a while ago, where Flow moved from the system where it is relying on the electricity. He said he understands, but we need to understand a bit more why Flow moved to that, because when electricity go, your phone is down. So why move to that when in terms of disaster you're down out?
I had the same problem too. But I was the last one to move to the HFC network, to be honest with you. I see the same problem. I feel your pain too. But it's a leap in technology. That's how they look at it, because the copper did not provide the bandwidth needed. Yeah? So it's like moving to the next best thing, which is more bandwidth. And in order to do that, that's what we had to do. Yeah? And then again, who uses fixed line now for making calls? Yeah, because you have your mobile phone, right? Because I think in Cayman, for instance, right? In Cayman, I think the way we deploy our, even the fiber network, the way we deploy the fiber network, there's a modem that can either, when power go, it can switch to your mobile service. You know, there's a modem like that. Because you know, these modems, you could get some little battery thing. You don't have to get big UPS to provide the power, because some of them is just USB-C. So, you know, they can last long. I think it switched to the mobile number. But in Cayman, I think it's a premium service though. But I think eventually it will come, you know.
Okay. I have a question again. Sorry. So you mentioned something about you sort of touching on it and you kind of ain't touching on it. Fiber. And fiber come into the homes and you kind of you did like a trump. You did a little weave there now and had me going with you and then you lost me. So my question is, I'm bringing it back home. When do you plan to bring fiber? You could just bring it to my house, right? So I'm asking for me. And by extension, those along the route will get. So when do you plan to bring it?
I asked the same question because I want fiber by my home too. But I'm not sure the date. But I know, for instance, in Canawan, we're rolling out fiber there. In Union, we're going to be doing fiber there. But for fiber to do that leap from what we have now to fiber, it's going to cost a lot. So it will be a phased approach. Some customers, business customers, have fiber to their premises already. And I guess, I can't answer and give you a date, but I know that's in the pipeline. Yeah? That's,
okay.
I hope I answered you.
Well, you
The
answered,
question.
but I'm not so happy. So my next question is when
where
are
are you
we-
from though?
Queens
Where you
Drive.
live in?
Queens Drive.
Oh, you see, well, when I get fiber, you might get fiber, because I live in Queens Drive too.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. When are we getting 5G?
5G. I don't think the network is exhausted in such a way that we need 5G, but it's already in the plan. We deployed 5G in Cayman already. I think in Antigua we're testing it. But I think we're still delivering like sometime up to 40 megs over the mobile network. But it's in the plan. It's in the plan. The thing about 5G, you know, so the higher bandwidth, the higher the frequency, right? So obviously NTRC benefits a lot, because you know much for those little 5 megs, you know. But the downside of 5G is that the higher you go with the frequency, the less penetration. So inside here, you might not get 5G unless they have a cell site close. So I think the technology is still being tested. I mean, one time I heard they were talking about using people's handset as a repeater for 5G. So that is in the plan. I'm not sure when, but it's in the plan. And what I could tell you, our network is still able to deliver a fairly good speed for customers now. But it's in the plan.
Do we have another question? Let's get on. We at 12:10. So we have 5 minutes, unless we have questions flowing. But let's focus on the resilience. You know, I know we have a bunch of other stuff we'd like to talk about. Any more questions, comments? Sorry. Yes, go right ahead.
Hello. God, that's loud. Yeah, sorry. A comment, first of all. With renewables, so your renewable energy, there's quite a focus on that globally. But I'm quite surprised to hear, or maybe I'm not surprised to hear, that the different actors have different policies related to it. So whereas cable and wireless might want to use renewable energy at this juncture, then the VINLEC, the provider of energy nationally, probably don't want to be seen as a backup, but more of a generator. So there are those issues, obviously, that as a comment. The other thing is that I wondered from the point of view of NEMO, as to when the question really is, when is it possible to have an emergency telecommunication system that isn't reliant on the commercial companies in your country?
Okay, so currently we have that radio network that is technically reliant on the service provider because of the use of the towers, the co-location. Because if you realize, because of the topography, Cable Wireless and Digicel would have done their homework to know where are the best locations. So because of the agreement, or basically policy that they have of that support to the government of St. Vincent, is that you can basically collocate, you have that collaboration. At any location. So it's kind of more of that support from them nationally. That's why those equipments are placed in their locations. So we have repeaters at various sites that Digicel or Flow would be at. The support from them is because when we had the bid for that radio network, you had various bids. They won the bid due to different circumstances from Tate. And it had to do with licensing and so forth, because a lot of companies come with, nice, looking good and everything. Motorola was looking good and everything. But then the after is the problem, because when you have to pay for a license, a patch, this and that, you end up with a dead system if you don't have the funds for it. Now with Tate had a license that was open to basically the use of the equipment was open. So some of those things were the reason why that bid was won. So therefore, that's why it's actually Flow supporting in maintenance. And it's just because it has a contract of maintenance, but it's actually a government system that can, after that contract, decide whether you want a different entity to support or whatever the case may be. And that system is robust in the sense that it can be integrated into other systems. So while it's a digital network, it still has the analog side to it that you can switch back to. There's another thing that we're doing, and NTRC still has to support us on this, is where the system has the ability to connect the analog side of various networks to it. But, that's also part of a licensing through NTRC. Government going to NTRC. Anyway, so the issue is that we still have some tweaking there to be done so that we have that, possibility of having the interconnectivity between analog and digital, so that we can be able to switch over to an amateur repeater and still work. That sort of thing. But as you say, it's different policies at different places that need to be now synchronized. And then it will take other things, because on our network, once you use our radios on our network, you don't have to have an amateur license. But once you go on an amateur repeater, it becomes different. Right? So all of these things need to be taken into consideration for emergency, but that network is there. It just needs to be reviewed, built upon, because, for instance, VINLEC uses that radios network right now. CWSA uses it, and they want to use more of it. So it's just kind of building out where we can build on it and see how we can support it, make sure it's more robust. And actually, if Flow is going to be the support and maintenance, we need to have a good policy with them too, because some technical issues there also. All right, so those are some things, but that's one thing that we have that is okay. But as you said, there are other things that we can look at and need to have in order for emergency management.
He mentioned something about the amateur radio, right? Is it NTRC responsible for giving that license? And is it, I'm not seeing a push to get more people. I normally look at this website in the US, and there's a big thing in the US. You know, when they had Sandy, when they had that hurricane recently, the amateur people is who helped out. Is it something that NTRC probably need to drive, you know, and encourage more people signing up and so on? You know, thanks.
So can I just, so that's an interesting one because, you know, a few years ago, not too long ago, the mainstay of our emergency communication systems in this country on the ground were amateur radio people, were they not? Yeah? We had a network of amateur radio enthusiasts, and that was the mainstay of our on-the-ground last resort communications. So why is it that we cannot have the same level of independence, right, with the technology that you have now? Anyway, I just wanted to ask another question quickly, was that are all the providers nationally, are they all on the same IXP?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I think that was something that was done some years ago, right? Yeah. Yeah,
I'm just not sure whether it's operating properly or not. I just don't know.
So if
I don't know.
if you have a website that
I'm
is
asking
local,
Cable and Wireless.
right? So explaining. So if you have a website that is local, it doesn't go out in the cloud and come back. It's supposed to just go straight across to that site locally. I think that is still in place, right? That was before my time at, I think when I went over to Ericsson, I think, yeah.
Regarding the IX, that is still in place. Actually, this week I actually was working with Brent from Grenada. He has done some work in setting up IXs across the Caribbean region. So, yes, it was just basic for the last couple of years, but we have gotten a bit more equipment, so we're going to add some more services so that it could be of more use, or people could see the actual benefits of it in St. Vincent. But to answer your question that you would have asked previously in regards to amateur radios, now, we don't really promote it. However, we partner with community groups who actually go out and train persons in terms of, you know, how to use the radio, the words to use to communicate it, and so on and so forth. So we actually support groups doing that. So that is how, you know, we would help in that regard. But there was a question that I wanted to ask Anthony, based on the kind of complaints that we would have received, especially following Beryl, where there would have been a power outage in a particular area. However, at my home, I have power, my modem is on, but I have no internet service. I think you guys would have indicated that you would have installed batteries on your network to support your equipment, but it doesn't seem to be working. The plan that you have, or the plan that you explained, doesn't seem to be working, because as soon as power goes, the internet goes. Although power at your particular home is there. So what plans that you guys have to actually maintain your network in such cases?
So remember, Beryl was an extreme situation, right? So as far as I know, this is not an area that I really manage, but as far as I know, there are batteries at those power supplies you see on the side of the road. They're supposed to last more than 4 hours. So if that happens in your area, I think the guys would know that the node drop. They will know exactly when it's dropped. And if needed, they will replace the batteries. Yeah? They're looking at some, and I know I'm pushing this too, in the company too. There needs to be some better backup in terms of the, I agree with you. Yeah, it needs to be more than the time that it's been at now. So it's something that we're going to be looking at. It need to be like the cell sites. Cell sites, battery battery cuts in, the generator comes in. That's why you have more uptime on the cellular network than the fixed network.
Okay, thanks.
Something we're looking at. Maybe replacing with lithium.
Yeah, Balo, you spoke about fixed wireless. Could you expand on that, please?
So I was referring to that in Grenada, Carriacou. So instead of having a wire coming directly to your house, we use a fixed wireless network. Fixed wireless network is similar to a mobile network, but to provide service for like replacement of your internet. So it's basically a modem and an antenna which points to one of our cell sites, and you'll get the same kind of speed that you will get from your fixed network now. So we've been using it in Carriacou since the storm, since the hurricane, and we plan to roll it out to Mairo. And what was the other place? Oh, that's PM, but that's Grenada.
Okay, so does that mean the customer would need his own SIM card to have that service? Or
No,
you
it's not a mobile base. It's a fixed. It's like how you have a modem. It will have a modem similar for your internet right now. It's something similar, but the transport, it would not be wires. It will be wireless. I'm not sure if you understand.
Okay, so the telco don't make anything out of this disaster then?
The telco.
So the telecom company, since you're doing this new stuff, I'm just wondering if they would be getting a cut of that jump at that point. How do they make money? Because you're sending the signal other than normal fixed, okay?
Right.
Yeah, so they don't make any money from
Yeah, they will, because only the modem they provide would only allow you alone to connect to it. So Joan can just buy a modem and connect it and look for that wireless signal and connect to it. You have to be signed up to Cable and Wireless in order to get that service, right? But we're not rolling it out in St. Vincent. It's just small areas. It really concentrates on small areas.
I hope that answers your question. Let's again focus on resilience. We have like another 5-6 minutes. We have a hard stop at 12:30 for lunch. So we can take a couple more questions, please.
This is for Nemo. In regards, I think you mentioned it briefly, but I know a couple years they would have stated that would have witnessed Ivan in Grenada, Dominica would have had severe storm, and a lot of these places would have been wiped out. So, and you can see that they have already bounced back, and they bounced back pretty quickly. So I was wondering if you would have had any speakings, meetings with these countries or persons in the same area as Nemo about what they did or what they would have implemented to get back on stream, so that we could also put aside some budget to try and implement these measures in St. Vincent. The thing with disaster, it's good to be proactive, but it's expensive. So now we have gone through burial. If another storm passes, we should already be properly prepared. So what did you all interface with either Dominica or persons from Grenada about how they were able to get back on track in a short time?
Okay, so that's about my pay grade, but still. There is a network when it comes to the disaster management offices. So they share information. And also through CDIMA. CDIMA is like that, just like how Nemo for here is the one that brings all the different stakeholders together. CDIMA does the same at that level. So there's that sharing of information and that, support and so forth. What I would say though, Vincentians are special people too. So it comes back also to the human aspect that we keep mentioning. Sometimes the bounce back is based on people too. It's based on departments. It's based on a lot of various things. So while in an area, persons will just, you make this decision and everybody say, yes, let's go with it. Here, it might be a lot of discussions, red tape, this, that, before you can actually get one thing done. So it would take longer to get certain things done here because, I don't have to spell it out, because of different circumstances. While in other places, if this person says, this is where we're going, everybody looks at it, they take their piece and they run with it, that's another thing. And the thing that we have always had a struggle with at NEMO is really and truly getting all the stakeholders to come on board. Because even now, that even for union, you have a lot of different stakeholders. You have VINLEC, you have cable wireless and so forth. But how many times they would have called a stakeholder meetings and you see somebody representing Flow or representing VINLEC? You also have to be calling them separately, you understand? So even just getting, what is your plan, short-term, mid-term, long-term, it's still pulling teeth just to get that, even though they may have it. So I'm just outlining that sometimes it's really and truly the human resources that sometimes causes also the problem when it comes to bouncing back quickly and the systems and the different policies and things that are in place to support it. Yeah.
Can you be brief? I would have liked to give somebody else an opportunity. I have like 1 minute.
It's a follow-up to Jerwin.
Make it quick because we have like 1 minute.
Well, you're holding me up if I would go. So Jerwin, what I'm thinking, I hear you clearly, and I am a firm believer in policies and plans. From what you're saying, that there is no overarching plan to guide people. So one group may decide this is how they want to do it, and another group will decide this is how we think it should go, and then twain never meet. But if there is a plan, a specific plan already in place, people already know what to do, how, most of the times how to do it, because that could change, and most importantly, when to do it. Of course, there is a cost, but I think right now that is what is happening in the public sector now, the absence of plans and policies.
Yeah. All right, so as we come to, I agree with you, and that's, basically it. If you notice a lot of our stuff, they are still in what? Draft. They're still in draft. So it's no hard stop to some of these things. Go ahead.
My question is to Anthony. Okay. You were speaking about running fiber underground and how the issues with fiber on the pole and how fragile that is. Is there a roadmap currently for having that underground infrastructure?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned we had a copper network, right? And because of all the years copper was there, most of it was underground. So what we're basically doing now, seeing that we shut down copper, shut down, someone was mentioning about 5G, when we actually shut down 2G, we had a bunch of customers didn't want us to do that. It was just about a year ago. Well, into this year. So we had to extend. But going back to your point, yes, the next I think in our planning session this year, we have allocated some monies to start pulling out some of the copper, and pull fiber in so that our network can be more resilient. So that's in the plan. For instance, in Kanawan and in Union, what we did in restoration, rather than run the fiber, because we had a fiber from Digicel Subsea into our network, it was overhead. Obviously, it was down on the ground. So now, we had actually put it underground. Kanawan is underground, and we are in the process of putting Union underground. And this will actually connect our underground, our core network to the subsea, everything underground. So we are actually doing that right now.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we would have presentation to the presenters in appreciation for their work this morning.
So on behalf of the Internet Society of St. Vincent and the Grenadines chapter, we are very pleased to have you. We hope that you decide to become a member as well and to bring your expertise to bear on how better we can behave in after a disaster. We hope that we don't have any more, and also more importantly to build our resilience. Thank you. Please convey our gratitude to Ms. Forbes for giving you the time off to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you get me?
You got it?
So, as I said, you made this very interesting. I didn't think I would have enjoyed it, but I did. And you brought a lot of information that, well, for me, and I suspect the rest of us here, that we didn't know. I wouldn't say exactly that you're hiding your light under a bushel, but I can see that there is room for improvement, and it appears as if Flow is listening. And for us, that's important. Thank you. Please convey our gratitude to Mr. Hull for allowing you the time off to spend with us. For us, it was a time well spent. And are you a member of the Internet Society? So this is a plug. We would like you to be a member as well.
Thank you. Truly great team effort. And thanks to Anthony Balcom, I got it right this time. Jerwin Ledlow, I got that right. From Flo and Nemo, respectively. We give them another round of applause for the great presentations. We would take a break for lunch at this point. We resume at 1:45 on the dot, please. We got quite a bit to cover. We want everybody to leave early. So 1:45, we resume here. We would pick up with Fontanet, is that right? We start with them, and we still have another open forum. So we invite in all of us. Lunch is provided, no need to get away. Please be back here at 1:45. We'd like everyone to be back here for those presentations and participate in the open forum. Thank you. Enjoy lunch.